If it works in Miami, the Trauma Resolution Center, TRC, a model program for success in resolving the impact of trauma.
Hello, my name is Teresa DeShilo and I'm the founder and executive director of the Trauma Resolution Center. This is an agency that has been in existence since 1995. In 1995, I was asked by the late Denise Moon of the State Attorney's Office in Miami if I would please start a service for victims of crime after I described to her what I did, which I've been doing for a few decades. And she had just come off of a community task force that had identified that the mental health needs of crime victims weren't being met. And crime victims have never wanted to access the mental health system because they claim I'm not crazy for the symptoms I'm having. Something horrible happened to me. Why should I take a label or be drugged or go through a process that makes me feel like I'm less than what I am? And because the model that I have been part of and promoted and been practicing for a long time is all about creating safety and isn't about diagnosing or assigning labels and is about the resiliency of the human spirit, I was asked to start this service.
Our purpose. The mission of the Trauma Resolution Center, TRC, is to provide in-depth and respectful services that empower individuals suffering from a wide range of issues stemming from past negative experiences. We build human resiliency by first teaching tools to relieve stress and then facilitate the resolution of past traumatic experiences, returning traumatized individuals to a state of higher functioning and happiness, leaving them less likely to need any further community services. The Trauma Resolution Center in Miami, Florida is the first trauma-informed and trauma-specific community mental health center in the U.S. What is trauma-informed? Trauma-informed service systems take into account knowledge about trauma, its impact, interpersonal dynamic, and paths to recovery, and incorporate this knowledge into all aspects of service delivery. What is trauma-specific? Trauma-specific treatment services address directly the impact of trauma on an individual's life and facilitate trauma recovery.
And because what we were about to embark on in 1995 was not traditional medical model kind of treatment, I knew that I should keep measurements for depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and expectancy of success so that I could make the point that treating people in this particular way and helping them through and empowering them to help themselves was the way to go. And here we are 16 years later, or many years later, and it has come to light because of these measurements that yes, indeed, what we do with people is very, very effective. Right now we have the University of Miami partnering with us, as they have for almost 2 years, and so far we've begun running our information and our data to find that most people resolve their PTSD, depression, and anxiety in an average of about 20 hours of treatment. Something to be very excited about. The other thing that's lovely about this approach is that it's cost effective. It's not our model is cost effective to deliver. And that is a very important thing to me, to have a model that is replicable, for widely replicable, because there's so many traumatized human beings in our world that it's really, really important to have something that works and that's accessible and that most people can learn.
What is trauma? Trauma occurs when an actual or perceived threat of danger or loss overwhelms a person's usual coping ability. How can trauma be resolved? At TRC, we have had great success with a holistic approach, which includes mental, social, physical, spiritual, and educational.
This is a very client-centered practice and always has been, and can only be that for Miami, because in Miami, people from all over live. We have treated people from more than 80 different countries, mostly women, definitely men, and children, of course, and they have all been able to accept the practice of what we do with them, because when we sit in front of them, it is all about them. It is not about us or our values or us imposing anything on them. And so, faced with the point of view, I'm just here to help you get through your story, your trauma story, and get you through to the other end of it, Doesn't matter if they're from South America, if they're from Africa, from India, or from the Far East. They are amenable to this process, which is all about them.
Because I'm a lot more open with people now, and I'm not so scared of everything, you know, always looking over my shoulder and always being scared, you know. And I'm looking at life a lot differently. Because I was able to like go back home and not feel any pressure about anything, and it was really, really nice to be able to do that, because I was able to go home back to, you know, my roots and not feel frightened to go into the house, and it was so good.
It's different. I can go to sleep at night and know that if I wake up, I won't be waking up to a nightmare.
TIR Trauma Services has given me a technique for filing away traumatic events in my life and unpleasant thoughts that go back to childhood. Conventional therapy was more like a band-aid situation. It didn't really get to the heart of the problem. They were looking more at medication aspect of therapy than actually doing the therapy.
Yes, I noticed many changes after I visited and had a session at the trauma center. What were they? I think the biggest change was that I began to accept what had happened to me as a small child. And although I've been speaking and talking about my experiences for years, I just never had addressed how I really felt, because most people don't think that a 3-year-old can really think or have feelings. But it was the 3-year-old that I was able to visit after the session at the trauma center.
As far as the trauma, it has been real helpful for me, because like I had a whole lot of stuff, a lot of secrets and stuff I thought I was gonna keep and take to my grave, but I'm emptying everything about me so I can be happy, joyous, and free. And I'm like continue to do what I'm doing, because like we have a lot of groups here. I mean, like all the groups here and the people that come and participate, it's working, you know what I'm saying? And also we have NA and outside people come, like we have like 10, maybe 20 years clean, and let us hear their strength, hopes, and dreams, and so that we can also dream big and continue to do what we need to do, because it goes as far as you want it to go, how far you're willing to go. You can do anything you want to do, but that trauma, I'm just saying, I'm like an open book. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy. I mean, I can smile, I can talk to anybody, I can tell anybody anything. I'm just grateful. I am very grateful. Thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing. The freedom of being able to be a whole person. It's kind of like, I guess, being new. Being new.
Mental component, traumatic incident reduction, TIR, client-centered exposure treatment. Traumatic incident reduction, TIR. If we could only provide one service to our clients, it would be this one. It gets to the core of past trauma quickly. This discipline informs our entire agency. Through integrating traumatic memory, TIR is very effective at permanently resolving the unwanted physical, emotional, and mental symptoms stemming from past negative experiences. Creating a safe space. In TIR, we first create a safe space in order for our clients to process painful material. Important aspects of a safe space include remaining present for another's experience, recognizing what is lovable, no evaluation, no interpretation, no judgment, untimed sessions, and the client chooses what is addressed most of the time. TIR is a one-on-one technique of systematically guiding a client through past negative experiences to release emotional charge, mental confusions, and psychosomatic physical conditions. TIR has been very effective at permanently resolving the unwanted effects of past traumas, returning the client to a much higher state of functioning and happiness.
I believe that the explanation as to why TIR is so effective in resolving trauma is contained in 2 key points. One has to do with brain research that was done on traumatized people. This research involved hooking people with known trauma up to a PET scan machine, triggering their traumatic events, and then watching what part of the brains were impacted. When this was done, what they saw was that the part of the brain that is responsible for conscious linear memory, the hippocampus, was shut down in full or in part, and that the part of the brain responsible for unconscious memory was completely lit up, that being the amygdala. And what this essentially means is that a traumatic memory is one which isn't integrated, because we can all go through upsetting experiences and remember them fully because both parts of these brains are fully lit up and functioning. But overwhelming events shut down the part of the brain that is responsible for conscious memory, leaving us with an unconscious memory that we can't sit down and just remember. Unfortunately, this type of memory can only be triggered. Which leads to the other concept that I think explains why TIR is so effective, and that is the concept of state-dependent learning. In the late 60s, researchers got some folks drunk, taught them how to do something, allowed them to get sober again, at which point they couldn't remember what they learned when they were drunk. They let them get drunk again, at which point they remembered what they learned when they were inebriated the first time. So that and subsequent research has shown that a person's got to be in the same or similar state they were in when they were traumatized in order to remember it. What you're going to hear about trauma is that trauma stores in state-dependent form. A person has to be in the same or similar state they were in when they were traumatized in order to remember it. And in essence, what we do with TIR is create an incredibly safe environment, stay anchored with the client through their experience as they repetitively go through their experience, pulling up the pieces from the amygdala which were forgotten, forming now a conscious memory, bleeding off the sensory motive aspects until at the end of the process they have a memory like other memories.
How TIR differs from other modalities. TIR is the only trauma-specific approach that teaches a specific discipline for delivery. TIR is the only trauma-specific approach that does not require prior credentials for practitioners to be trained. TIR is relatively easy to learn. TIR takes people beyond eliminating symptoms to a state of increased empowerment. TIR generally resolves one trauma per session, whereas other modalities often require multiple sessions per trauma. TIR can be utilized with many different client populations. Because it is extremely client-centered, TIR has been accepted by people from more than 80 countries. Randomized control trials. Victims of crime receiving TIR reported significantly less PTSD and intrusive cognitions compared to exposure therapy and control group, Bisbee, 1995. Incarcerated women receiving one session of TIR reported significantly less PTSD, depression, and anxiety after 1 week and after 3 months, Valentine and Smith, 2001. Supporting studies. Unaccompanied refugee minors and at-risk youth reported significantly less post-traumatic stress and depression over time. Self-concept significantly improved for both populations. Tasillo et al., 2010. Latina and African American women survivors of intimate partner violence reported significantly less post-traumatic stress, depression, and anxiety over time. Dolan, 2011. TIR has passed rigorous reviews and is recognized as an evidence-based practice. It will appear on the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. Social work and community component. Personal, connections to other needed services. System, navigating the system, accompanying clients to appointments, and evaluation and expert testimony. At the TRC, we are considered experts in domestic violence. We provide court evaluations and expert testimony for victims of violence. For youth, we provide trauma resolution in supportive housing and residential settings. Physical component, acupuncture, massage, yoga, dance aerobics. Spiritual component, breathwork, meditation, healing circles. educational component, psychoeducational groups, community resiliency programming, and training in all components of our model.
Let me walk you through the agency so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Here's our entrance, and our waiting room is off to the right. We set the intention early on for our clients. This sign has been up on our wall for about 12 years. And as you see, it says, our wish for you is that when you have completed our services, that you are no longer a victim, survivor, or consumer, but a renewed and enhanced you. Another important component for creating safety for everybody is our basic rule of be nice or leave. That's for everybody, not just staff and volunteers. That is also for our clients. There's simply no room for acting out in a way that violates anybody's safety. We are very mindful of creating an environment that is warm and inviting. Now, looking at one of our hallways, I think you've noticed the little machines on the floor. Those are sound blocking machines. We want to ensure that our client sessions are truly confidential. Here's a shot of an after breathwork session. This is a staff session, and this is one of the practices we've engaged in, again, for over 12 years. We do different things from time to time. We meditate, breathwork, sound bowls. This is our acupuncturist, Kathy. She's actually working on one of the staff. The staff, as well as the clients, take advantage of our holistic services. Nadine, our administrative director. Nadine has been with us for over a decade. Leo is our office manager, and while he is still working on his degree, early on in his career with us, he trained and became certified and is an excellent clinician. This is one of the offices that has been decorated by one of our staff. Here is one of our administrative areas. We have interns, and this is a place where they can sit and do their paperwork. But obviously it's got our photocopy and other things too. This is Morgan, who has been with us for over a year, our massage therapist, a yoga teacher, and also our dance aerobics teacher. And again, staff take advantage of her services as well. Our primary service is done on a one-on-one setting. While most people come to us ready to tell their story, there are many people that need other approaches and other techniques in order to ready themselves. However, no matter what we do with another person, it is always done within the context of the discipline in which no one receives evaluation, judgment, or interpretation for their stories. This is our group room without any people on the floor. Our psychoeducational groups about domestic violence, the psychobiology of trauma, and the impact of domestic violence on kids, as well as trauma bonding happen here. We put this kitchen in because, well, we all need a place to eat and gather, and right now this is a picture of a number of staff getting ready for the monthly potluck.
Staff self-care. This is a critical component to prevent compassion fatigue and burnout, and for maintaining a safe space for all.
The part of our model that is critical in the delivery of our program is the care of staff. Our staff are, the staff here are definitely an adventurous type because they are willing to engage in any kind of a practice that will help them center or stabilize or deal with their own stuff. Nobody runs around here with their stuff unresolved for long. The person who answers the phone has had her trauma work done. Everybody has had their trauma work done, and if there's any kind of trip along the way, if somebody has a heartbreak or a heartache or an accident, let me tell you, within 24 hours that person is in session. Or every so often there is that client story that we haven't quite heard before and is especially horrendous. Again, that person will be supported all the way through, getting their client through all of the horror that they've experienced.
Who we serve: victims of crimes, people recovering from addiction, at-risk youth, disaster victims, trafficking victims, unaccompanied immigrant children, veterans, and anyone seeking resolution of past traumas.
I mean, I'm a hard case, 73 years of silence. I think the trauma center could work for practically anybody.
Like a weight, like you're carrying around this weight for years, and it's like a weight has been, because I feel so free and open right now. It's like,
Nice.
this is it. This is what I was maybe waiting for all these years, and it has been really, it has been a pleasure coming here. It really has.
I spent probably all my adult life on the negative side of life. I didn't see any hope, I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But now with trauma services and having filed those traumatic events away in a different part of my brain, I've been able to uplift my spirits. I wake up in the morning now and I'm glad to greet the day. I sleep much better at night because I'm not playing these traumatic events over and over in my head every night. And it's been a very positive thing for me, and I would recommend it to anyone who has difficulty with things in their life.
Traditional services do not use the methods that Teresa's services do. The Trauma Resolution Center really has discovered, created a way not to talk about what you learn in school. Not to just, it really takes you to where it happened and allows you to relive it as much as you can, which sounds very frightening and very scary to people who are avoiding. Everybody wants to avoid what I've been through, and nobody wants to think about it. But because they take you through that process, what you come out, instead of feeling that something terrible will happen to you, you come out and you're enlightened. You are able to breathe and think and not run.
Oh man, number one, I look forward to it. You know what I'm saying? And I can sit back and think of things and write things down, what I need to talk about, and just bring them to the table. Whatever I bring to the table, I'm willing to work on. Thank you.
In traditional therapy, it might take you 2 years to get to the point where we started. So that's a difference in the process at that center. They take you right to the place and you begin to work on that place. And when they say, tell me what happened, and you start telling them what happened, you're telling them what you know, and amazingly, you start telling them things you didn't even remember. And that memory then becomes yours, and then the healing. I began to feel it. I began to feel much, much different than I have felt for 73 years. Unbelievable.
Training available. We provide training in our agency model to mental health professionals, agency employees, healers, and former clients.
The other thing that is unusual and also very makes this a very replicable model is that anybody can learn this model. It is not limited to those with a degree. The requirements to do this type of work are quite different than a degree implies. Of course, people with degrees bring a richer, fuller kind of understanding to the work, but the fact of the matter is, to help somebody resolve the impact of their traumatic events, it requires somebody who listens well, who connects well, who has courage and heart, and is not avoidant, is really willing to hear the stories. And also the understanding that once you've personally had the experience that yes, it is possible to resolve traumatic events and feel better, there's no avoidance doesn't become an issue at all, or isn't an issue at all. It is understanding that no matter what this person has been through, if they have certain strengths about them, they can resolve the impact of their trauma. And that is most people. I've come to accept that not everybody will be able to go through this process. Not everybody will be able to tell their story, but most people will. And to their great benefit and to their healing, to the facilitating their own healing.
Our model can be replicated in your community. We provide training in our full clinical model or in specific components of it, including our main treatment approach, traumatic incident reduction, TIR.
Years ago, SAMHSA funded a pilot project, and we brought in 12 Native Americans from all over, and it was quite an adventure. Some of them arrived without really understanding why they were sent, and one elder in particular was a little bit resentful at being brought to this new agey kind of a thing, which was his take on us at the beginning, because he was a traditional healer. And but to his fabulous credit, he totally participated in the program, and at the end of the week I said, well, tell me, will what we do fit in with traditional healing? And what he said to me was a defining moment for me, because what he said was, Teresa, this is traditional healing.
The Trauma Resolution Center, TRC. Contact us for info. For a free brochure, go to www.thetrcenter.org. Dedicated with appreciation to Frank Agerbody, MD. This video is produced and narrated by Kevin Thomas. Contact info below.